What's up, Detroit sports fans? Before we begin, I'd like to correct a mistake I made in the last video. I said that Stafford in 2017, that he had 331 completions, when in actuality he had 371 completions. So please forgive my mistake. I'll try to make sure to fix that in future videos. But anyway, in this episode, we're going to be comparing Stafford's offensive supporting cast to other quarterbacks that have made Super Bowl runs or put up similar stats. Now keep in mind this is mostly talking about offensive supporting casts. I may make a mention or two about the defense, but that will be in the next episode. So to begin, let's take a look at every offensive Pro Bowler that Stafford has ever played with in his career. Keep in mind I'm only counting them as a Pro Bowler that Stafford played with if they made a Pro Bowl with Stafford. For example, Eric Ebron made a Pro Bowl with the Colts, but he did not make one with the Lions. You see, you got Calvin Johnson, you got Golden Tate, and you got TJ Lang. Now, Calvin Johnson was a Pro Bowler in 2010 without Matthew Stafford throwing in the ball the majority of the year, as Stafford was hurt for the most of that season. And TJ Lang did make a Pro Bowl with the Packers. However, Golden Tate was not a Pro Bowler prior to signing with the Lions. So that adds up to 3 total Pro Bowlers on the offensive side of the ball that Stafford has ever played with in his career. So let's compare it to other quarterbacks. Let's see how many offensive Pro Bowlers they've had. Here's a list of every Pro Bowler on the offensive side of the ball that I could find for Matt Ryan, Ben Roethlisberger, Aaron Rodgers, and Patrick Mahomes. I put asterisks next to the players that were either Pro Bowlers or productive players before or after playing for said quarterback. For example, Davante Adams was a Pro Bowler in the 2017 season, despite Aaron Rodgers missing a pretty good chunk of that year. Roddy White, he had 1,202 receiving yards in the 2007 season. He was not a Pro Bowler, but he did prove he could be productive without Matt Ryan. Look how many more Pro Bowlers all these players have had than Stafford has had. Patrick Mahomes, in one season of starting, he's had more Pro Bowl help than Stafford has had in his entire career. And the only reason, I have him listed at 4 Pro Bowlers right now, and the only reason he doesn't have 5 is because Kareem Hunt got released by the Chiefs, and he is going to be getting ready to serve a suspension. Well, anyways, you see you got Matt Ryan, he's got 10 Pro Bowlers, Roethlisberger 15, Rodgers 12. So 2 other quarterbacks supporting casts I'd like to mention before we do head-to-head comparisons are Cam Newton and Russell Wilson. Cam Newton has had 9 Pro Bowlers on the offensive side of the ball in his career. And Russell Wilson, the quarterback who's arguably the most famous for doing it all by himself, has still had more Pro Bowlers on the offensive side of the ball in his career than Stafford, despite playing less seasons. And I hope you all have been paying attention to all the asterisks I put next to these players. Every single player, quarterback on this list that I've made has had more asterisks or more proven players on their team than Stafford. Ryan's got 3 asterisks. Ben Roethlisberger's also got 3 asterisks. Rodgers 7, Mahomes 2, Newton 4, Wilson 5. Like, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce were proven players at their positions well before Mahomes started starting for the Chiefs. If it's not clear at this point in the series that Stafford has not had as much help as a huge chunk of the quarterbacks that have had more success from them than him, if it's not clear by now, I am not sure it ever is going to be. So now that we've hopefully established that Stafford has had much less offensive help in his career than a lot of people, let's begin our head-to-head comparisons, and we're going to start with comparing Stafford to Matt Ryan. So keep in mind, we're going to be starting off in 2011 and ending in 2018. So the years each quarterback played are even. As you can see, Stafford's stats are almost identical to Matt Ryan's, despite having less offensive help in pretty much every way. Stafford's production was a tad lower, and his quarterback record was a bit worse, but look at how many more Pro Bowlers Ryan has had during this time frame than Stafford. And look how many more 1,000-yard rushers Matt Ryan has had as well. And keep in mind, this isn't even talking entirely about the defensive supporting cast that these quarterbacks are getting. This is talking about the offensive supporting cast. It appears that Matt Ryan has consistently had a better offensive line, better receivers, and a better running game, and yet Stafford is barely trailing him in production. So Stafford has 3 postseason appearances in this time frame, and in all 3 of them he did not have a 1,000-yard rusher. Matt Ryan has 4 playoff appearances in this time frame, and in 2 of them he did not have a 1,000-yard rusher. Be prepared for a lot of repetition in these head-to-head comparisons, because having a 1,000-yard rusher is going to be a very common thing in these head-to-head comparisons. And Stafford not having nearly as much to work with, but still producing at an almost identical level, is also going to be an extremely common thing. So we know Stafford's stats are almost identical to Ryan's. I wanted to show you a couple of instances where Stafford actually outperformed Matt Ryan and had less help defensively and with the running game. I'm not going to stay on this slide for too long, so feel free to pause if you want to look at the slide more in depth. But basically, one thing I want you to notice that's important is how in these particular seasons, there is a 1-game difference between Stafford's and Ryan's records. But notice how Ryan has had a consistently better running game and a consistently better defense. Yet Stafford was only 1 game short of Matt Ryan, despite having less help in the running game and with his defenses. So we've seen how Stafford stacks up with Matt Ryan. Now let's see how he stacks up with Ben Roethlisberger. I assume what some of you are wondering why I decided to add 1 extra year to Roethlisberger. I did it so the games played were more even. Roethlisberger missed more than 10 games from 2011 to 2018, so the production would have been a little slanted. But this is where I officially get into the blasphemy territory. There's no way Stafford could possibly compare to Roethlisberger, right? Well, take a look for yourself. The stats are almost identical. Roethlisberger does have the edge in every category, but that doesn't tell the whole story. Look how many more Pro Bowlers and 1,000-yard rushers Roethlisberger has had than Stafford. Stafford has had Calvin Johnson and Golden Tate, but Roethlisberger has had Antonio Brown, Mike Wallace, Heath Miller, Le'Veon Bell, a better offensive line, and a better running game. Yet Stafford is almost as productive, even without having the same kind of supporting cast. And the stats would be a lot closer if Stafford didn't lose pretty much every receiver in 2018. And why are these 1,000-yard rushers so important? Well, they're important because Stafford struggles to win without a running game. But guess what? He's not the only one. The Steelers from 2010 to 2018 made the playoffs 6 times and missed them 3. Anybody want to take a wild guess as to what they did not have during those 3 seasons? If you guessed a 1,000-yard rusher, you get a gold star. To Roethlisberger's credit, 2 of those times he did make the playoffs. The Steelers did not have a 1,000-yard rusher. But if I haven't made it clear already, this episode is more talking about supporting casts on the offensive side of the ball than the defensive side of the ball. So keep that in mind throughout this episode, because maybe having a good defense helps to compensate a lack of a running game. So I want to do the same thing that I did with Matt Ryan. I want to show you a couple seasons where Stafford outperforms Ben Roethlisberger. And the 2017 season in particular is amazing on Stafford's part. Stafford had T.J. Lang as his lone Pro Bowler that year. But look how loaded that Steelers offense was in terms of Pro Bowlers in 2017. Stafford had a worse record than Roethlisberger that year. But that still doesn't tell the whole story. He had the 21st ranked scoring defense. Roethlisberger had the 7th ranked scoring defense. So Stafford put up better numbers. Roethlisberger did play 1 less game, but even if Roethlisberger threw for 3 touchdowns in that game that he did not play in, what Stafford did with less is nothing short of amazing. And if you wonder why Stafford hasn't consistently outproduced these quarterbacks, just look at how much more help they had. It's almost not even close. Now, let's compare Stafford to Russell Wilson. To make the games and years even, I decided to throw out Stafford's 2018 season. Now, I think this comparison is probably my favorite one. Stafford is more productive pretty much all the way across the board. Wilson has thrown less interceptions, has a higher yards per pass attempt, has only 1 less touchdown pass despite over 1,000 fewer attempts. He has more rushing yards and rushing touchdowns, Again, it does not tell the whole story. Look at how many more Pro Bowlers and 1,000-yard rushers Wilson has had than Stafford. Stafford has had no choice but to throw the ball as many times as he has if his team wanted to have any chance of winning. Wilson has not had to throw the ball as often, and the running game was helping set him up. Wilson, during this time frame, only missed the postseason one time. Oh, and guess what was missing that one time? A fucking running game. A fucking 1,000-yard rusher. If you people don't get it by now, then I just don't understand. Stafford defenders like me don't use his lack of a running game as just a scapegoat. He's not the only one that struggles to win without a running game. It's contagious across the league. And to Wilson's credit, he did manage to make it to the postseason twice without a 1,000-yard rusher and did get 2 postseason wins. But it took Seattle's defense having to hold the opposition to single-digit points both times just to get those wins. It's not like Wilson carried his team in either of those games or during that season. If anything, he was getting carried. The Seahawks had the 4th and 3rd ranked scoring defenses in the seasons in which Wilson did not have a 1,000-yard rusher. So before I compare Stafford's production to Aaron Rodgers, I want to talk about Wilson's 2017 season for a second, because this particular season is why I love the Matthew Stafford and Russell Wilson comparison so much. This particular season proves if Russell Wilson had Stafford's lack of a supporting cast throughout his career, he would have struggled to win just as much as Stafford has. So the Seahawks finished 9-7 that year. Wilson had the lowest yards per pass attempt of his career at 7.2, and he also had the lowest completion percentage of his career at 61.3. And it's not like he had bad receivers. He had Jimmy Graham and Doug Baldwin, who were both participating in the Pro Bowl. Jimmy Graham is a proven tight end in the NFL. Wilson in the 2017 season did have 34 touchdown passes, but he missed the playoffs. The year prior, he only had 21 touchdown passes and made them. So how is it possible he could produce so many more touchdown passes yet have a worse overall team record? Here's why. In 2016, the season I'm talking about, the Seahawks had the 3rd ranked scoring defense. Yet in 2017, it fell down to the 13th ranked scoring defense. The running game ranked a little higher for Wilson in 2017, but the scoring defenses, it dropped by 10 spots. So that shows you what I'm talking. And imagine, and if Wilson had the 21st ranked scoring defense, like Stafford did in 2017, his record would have been even worse. Anyways, now here's what I really want to ask you people. Not all 9-7s or 10-6s or 11-5s are created equal. So let me ask you this. What's more impressive? Matthew Stafford finishing 10-6 with the 23rd ranked scoring defense and the 29th ranked rushing offense, or Russell Wilson finishing 10-6 with the 1st ranked scoring defense into the 3rd ranked rushing offense? Or let me ask you this one. Is it more impressive for Matthew Stafford to finish 9-7 with the 13th ranked scoring defense and the 30th ranked rushing offense, or for Russell Wilson to go 10-5-1 with the 3rd ranked scoring defense and the 25th ranked rushing offense? Or like the 2017 that I love so much, is it more impressive for Stafford to finish 9-7 with the 21st ranked scoring defense and the 32nd ranked rushing offense, or for Russell Wilson to finish 9-7 with the 13th ranked scoring defense and the 23rd ranked rushing offense? Oh, and one final one. Is it more impressive for Matthew Stafford to finish 11-5 with the 3rd ranked scoring defense and the 28th ranked rushing attack, or for Russell Wilson to go 11-5 with the 1st ranked scoring defense and the 3rd ranked rushing attack? In the examples I just read, I feel that it proves that Matthew Stafford is absolutely better at carrying his team on his back than Russell Wilson. Now let's see how Stafford stacks up with the man himself, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is arguably the best one-man show in NFL history. But Stafford's not as far behind him as you expect. Just look at the stats. Please note that Aaron Rodgers during this time span that I listed has played 2 less games than Stafford. If you believe that Aaron Rodgers is going to throw for 1,100 yards in 2 games, then be my guest. But anyways, now, Rodgers is better than Stafford, but the discrepancy between the two is not as big as you think. Rodgers owns Stafford in touchdowns and yards per pass attempt, but Stafford has thrown to 2 Pro Bowl receivers in his career, and one of them has yet to prove that he can produce without Stafford. I mean, I hope Golden Tate can produce with the Giants, because I like Golden Tate. But, anyways, Rodgers has thrown to 4 Pro Bowl receivers in his career, and the only one of those 4 who has not been able to prove that he can produce without Rodgers is Randall Cobb. Greg Jennings was able to produce 70.8 yards per game with Brett Favre in the 2007 season. Jordy Nelson had a 3-touchdown game with Matt Flynn. And Davante Adams made the Pro Bowl with Brett Hundley quarterbacking him. And while the Packers only had 1 Pro Bowl receiver in Greg Jennings in the 2011 season, Jordy Nelson was producing at a Pro Bowl-worthy level. And it's easy to forget that Rodgers' receiving corps in 2011 was so good that year that Matt Flynn, the backup quarterback, was able to light up the Lions for 480 passing yards and 6 passing touchdowns. And the Lions were playing for playoff positioning, so it's not like Flynn was just throwing at all the Lions' second-string defensive backs. Rodgers has had more Pro Bowl offensive linemen in his career than Stafford ever has, and 3 of them were Pro Bowlers before playing for Rodgers. Rodgers has only had 1 more 1,000-yard rusher in his career than Stafford, but overall, Rodgers' supporting cast has been consistently better than Stafford. In the last video, I made a note of why Stafford struggled so much in 2018. The running game was not that much improved, and 4 of Stafford's top targets had less than 1,000 career receiving yards. Well, look how much Rodgers struggled with a similarly bad receiving corps. Don't get me wrong, Rodgers' stats in 2018 would be good for a lot of quarterbacks, but Aaron Rodgers isn't just any good quarterback. He is an all-time great, and even he could not produce at his regular levels without a good offensive supporting cast. So I want to make clear that this video was not at all intended or should not be interpreted as saying that any of the quarterbacks that I brought up, it was Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, or Aaron Rodgers, or Ben Roethlisberger, none of these players are bad quarterbacks. They are all great football players, and just about every NFL franchise would be blessed to have them on their team. My point is more that Matthew Stafford is not as bad as you think. He just needs a little help. He needs a lot more help, actually. He can't be consistently having his defenses ranked so bad, or his running games being ranked so bad. But you know what? Every NFL quarterback needs a little bit of running game and a little bit of defense. They just do. Yeah, like even Aaron Rodgers cannot single-handedly carry his team to a championship. He might be able to carry him single-handedly to the playoffs, but that's not a championship. Everybody needs help, and you shouldn't knock Stafford for needing help, because I don't know one quarterback that does not need help. Yeah, I think that'll be all for this episode. Thank you all for watching. In the next episode, I'll be breaking down. I'll be doing what I did in this episode, but on the defensive side of the ball. And maybe I'll use some different quarterbacks. Maybe I'll use the exact same ones. I don't know. But yeah, stay tuned for that episode. We're going to be breaking down defensive supporting cast in the next episode. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.